Right. I have 19 minutes left, so I'll read. I'm in chapter 8, Fog on the Barrow Downs. I'll read 4 pages today, and then tomorrow I'll read 5, and then I'll finish off chapter 8 after that. I don't feel like reading that much for Lord of the Rings today. I'm only going to read a good 4 pages today. So very quickly, if Peter Jackson or Mel Gibson were hired, they're going to be saved, and they're going to be the lucky chosen who gets to direct the amazing Last of Us story. As once they read my book, they're never going to be the same. You're looking at the best story ever told. A story even better than Lord of the Rings, man. Better than Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings. If it's done right, you put a lot of money into it. Peter Jackson will be like, yeah, Ivan, I've read your book. If you put a lot of money into this, you write an amazing script. I can even see this movie being better than my movie trilogy. Because even though Lord of the Rings is amazing, it was made on a limited budget. It was only made for like 90 million a piece. For each movie was only made for like $90 million, which for me I'm putting 550 million towards what? Towards all three movies. And you're looking at an unheard of budget. Whereas Lord of the Rings, they only put a good like 270 million towards what? 270 million towards all three movies, but that includes salaries and all that stuff. Whereas I'm putting 550 million towards a movie that doesn't include salaries, and that's how my company blows Hollywood out of the water, obviously. And that's why if Peter Jackson and Mel Gibson were hired, they're gonna be saved, and they're gonna be partnered with Arcano, fly my private jet. They're gonna get to experience the top quality company that Ivan and VJ own, which is Sky Source Entertainment, which will be the biggest film brand in the entertainment business, obviously. Let me stop babbling on. I'll read 4 pages quickly here, and then for the remaining time, if I have remaining time, I will babble on more about Sky Source. I might talk more about Peter Jackson and Mel Gibson, obviously. So let me stop wasting time here. This is Chapter 8, Fog on the Barrow Downs. That night they heard no noises, but either in his dreams or out of them, he could not tell which. Frodo heard a sweet singing running in his mind, a song that seemed to come like a pale light behind a grey rain curtain, and growing stronger to turn the veil all to glass and silver, until at last it was rolled back, and a far green country opened before him under a swift sunrise. The vision melted into waking, and there was Tom whistling like a tree full of birds, and the sun was already slanting down the hill and through the open window. Outside everything was green and pale gold. After breakfast, which they again ate alone, they made ready to say farewell, as nearly heavy of heart as was possible on such a morning, cool, bright, and clean under a washed autumn sky of thin blue. The air came fresh from the northwest. Their quiet ponies were almost frisky, sniffling and moving restlessly. Tom came out of the house and waved his hat and danced upon the doorstep, bidding the hobbits to get up and be off and go with good speed. They rode off a long path that wound away from behind the house and went slanting up towards the north end of the hill brow under which it sheltered. They had just dismounted to lead their ponies up the last steep slope when suddenly Frodo stopped. "Goldberry," he cried, "my fair lady, clad in silver green." We had never said farewell to her, nor seen her since the evening. He was so distressed that he turned back, but at that moment a clear call came rippling down. There on the hill brow she stood beckoning to them. Her hair was flying loose, and as it caught the sun it shone and shimmered. A light like the glint of water on dewy grass flashed from under her feet as she danced. They hastened up the last slope and stood breathless beside her. They bowed, but with a wave of her arm she bade them look around, and they looked out from the hilltop over lands under the morning. It was now as clear and far seen as it had been veiled and misty when they stood upon the knoll in the forest, which could now be seen rising pale and green out of the dark trees in the west. In that direction the land rose in wooded ridge, green, yellow, russet under the sun, beyond which lay hidden the valley of the Brandywine. To the south, over the line of the Withing window, there was a distant glint like pale glass where the Brandywine River made a great loop in the lowlands and flowed away out of the knowledge of the hobbits. Northward beyond the dwindling downs, the land ran away in flats and swellings of grey and green pale earth colors until it faded into a featureless and shadowy distance. Eastward the Barrow Downs rose, ridge behind ridge into the morning, and vanished out of Isa into a guess. It was no more than a guess of blue, and a remote white glimmer blending them with the hem of the sky, but it spoke to them out of memory and old tales of the high and distant mountains. They took a deep draught of the air, and felt that a skip and a few stout strides would bear them wherever they wished. It seemed faint-hearted to go jogging aside over the crumpled skirts of the downs towards the road, when they should be leaping, as lusty as Tom over the stepping stones of the hills, straight towards the mountains. Goldberry spoke to them and recalled their eyes and thoughts. Speeds now, fair guest, she said, and hold to your purpose. North with the wind in the left eye, and a blessing on your footsteps. Make haste while the sun shines. And to Frodo she said, Farewell, our friend. It was a merry meeting. So after Frodo and them are getting ready to leave Tom Bombadil's house and pass through the Barrow Downs. They see Goldberry. She wishes them the best, whatever it is, and now they're getting ready to go to the Barrow Downs. Obviously, that's pretty much what I read so far, right? But Frodo found no words to answer. He bowed low and mounted his pony, and followed by his friends, jogged slowly. Two more pages, and I'll end it here, and I'll babble on for the remaining. I'll probably have a good, I don't know, 8 minutes to babble on around there, 7 minutes to babble on around there. Down the gentle slope behind the hill, Tom Bombadil's house in the valley and the forest were lost to view. The air grew warmer between green walls of hillside and hillside, and the scent of turf rose strong and sweet as they breathed. Turning back, when they reached the bottom of the green hollow, they saw Goldberry, now small and slender like a sunlit flower against the sky. She was standing still watching them, and her hands were stretched out towards them. As they looked, she gave a clear call, and lifting up her hand, she turned and vanished behind the hill. Their way wound along the floor of the hollow, and round the green feet of a steep hill into another deeper and broader valley, and then over the shoulders of further hills, and down their long lives, and up their smooth sides again, up onto new hilltops and down into new valleys. There was no tree nor any visible water. It was a country of grass and short springy turf, silent except for the whisper of the air over the edges of the land, and high lone cries of strange birds. And they journeyed the sun mounted and grew hot. Each time they climbed a ridge, the breeze seemed to have grown less. When they caught a glimpse of the country westward, the distant forest seemed to be smoking, as if the fallen rain was steaming up again from leaf and root. Jared Tolkien going into the descriptions again, right? And mold. A shadow now lay around the edge of the slight in a dark haze above which the upper sky was like a blue cap, hot and heavy. About midday they came to a hill whose top was wide and flattened, like a shallow saucer with a green mounded rim. Inside there was no air stirring, and the sky seemed near their heads. They rode across and looked northwards. Then their hearts arose, for it seemed plain that they had come further already than they had expected. Certainly the distances had now all become hazy and deceptive, but there could be no doubt that the downs were coming to an end. A long valley lay below them, wending away northwards, until it came to an opening between two steep shoulders. Beyond there seemed to be no more hills. Due north, they faintly glimpsed, last page here, glimpsed a long dark line. That is a line of trees, said Mary. And that must mark the road. All along it for many leagues east of the bridge there are trees growing. Some say they were planted in the old days. Splendid, said Frodo. If we make as good going this afternoon as we have done this morning, we shall have left the downs before the sun sets, and be jogging on in search of the camping place. But even as he spoke, he turned his glance eastwards, and he saw that on that side the hills were higher, and looked down upon them, and all those hills were crowned with green mounds, and on some were standing stones pointing upwards like jagged teeth out of green gums. That view was somehow disquieting, so he turned from the sight and went down into the hollow circle. In the midst of it there stood a single stone, standing tall under the sun above, and at this hour casting no shadow. It was deepless and yet significant, like a landmark, or a guarding finger, or more like a warning. But they were now hungry, and the sun was still at the fearless noon, so they set their backs against the east side of the stone. It was cool, as if the sun had no power to warm it, but at that time this seemed pleasant. There they took food and drank, and made as good noon meal under the open sky as anyone could wish, for the food came from down under hill. Tom had provided them with plenty for the comfort of the day. Their ponies unburdened straight upon the grass, riding over the hills and eating their fill, the warm sun and the scent of turf lying a little too long, stretching out their legs. Again, this is not in a movie, right? And looking at the sky above their noses. These things are perhaps enough to explain what happened. However that may be, they woke suddenly and uncomfortably from a sleep they had never meant to take. The standing stone was cold, and was cast along a shadow that stretched eastward over them. The sun, a pale and watery yellow, was leaning through the mist just above the west wall of the hollow in which they lay, north, south, and east. Beyond the wall, the fog was thick, cold, and white. And that ends whatever my reading for today. I have a good 10 minutes of Babylon. I'm on page 180. So pretty much what? Frodo and them are in Tom Bombadil's house, pretty much. They wake up. They're in Tom Bombadil's house. They see Goldberry. She wishes them well. Obviously, they Jared Tolkien describes their journey through the Barrow Downs to the Barrow Downs. Obviously, right. he gives overlong descriptions about the land, landscape, all that stuff that I don't remember. Frodo and them camp. They eat food. And they continue their journey through the Barrow Downs, and they eventually get trapped in the Barrow Downs. I believe Tom Bombadil rescues them from the Barrow Downs, if I remember. I may be wrong. And that pretty much ends what? So even though I give descriptions, I give very vague descriptions. But you guys already know what the story's about because you can hear what I'm reading, obviously. Yeah. So right. So stay tuned tomorrow. Tomorrow will be a very interesting video. I will not be doing my Lord of the Rings read-along tomorrow. So sorry, Lord of the Rings nerds. You're gonna have to bear with me. I will. Trust me, you guys. I will get through. All you guys who really love my Lord of the Rings read-along, I will do my best to get through all of book 1 by the end of the month, which I should. I'm already on chapter 8. I only have 4.5 chapters left, pretty much. 4.5 chapters left, and I'm done book 1. Because book 1 is, I believe, 12 chapters. So I only have a good 4.5 chapters left, which I should finish in a couple weeks from now. So stay tuned for tomorrow. I'll be making that very interesting swimming with the sharks video. So I will not be doing. So you guys are probably happy because I will not be doing my Lord of the Rings read-along. I'll be babbling on and I'll be delving in depth about the topic, about the process of skyscrapers. I'll talk about like how, what I'm saying, me and my wife are going to go to Vancouver. We're going to hire George Lucas. George Lucas will help us. I'll pay George Lucas like $30,000. He'll help out me and my wife start plan skyscrapers. Because George Lucas had his own company independent from Hollywood, he's the perfect man to help me out. My wife, obviously. Okay, Ivan, you're going to need to copyright your company. You're going to need to build your own building for your 17. You're going to need to build your building for your special effects team. This is how many departments you need. Because George Lucas obviously knows all the departments. I'm like, look, George, how many departments do I need for the special effects team? Yeah, Ivan, you're going to need quite a few departments. You know what I'm saying? A lot of departments, obviously, right? Talk about that. And talk about once me and my wife are hard at work in the office, me and my wife are going to give Amazon a call. Hey, Amazon, we want to be your distributor. We want you to be our sole distributor, obviously. We want to release our movies only on... I'm going to tell Amazon, I only want my movies on 4K Blu-ray. I'm going to tell them that. Only 4K Blu-ray. I don't want it to be on Blu-ray and DVD, no. I want it to be unique company SkySource. I only want it released on 4K Blu-ray. That way my company's unique, obviously. And it's all you people around the world, you're going to have to buy a 4K Blu-ray player to play your 4K Blu-ray movies, obviously. And I recommend you get a 4K TV too. That way you don't have to get a 4K TV. You'll still get good quality if you have a regular 1080p TV, whatever it is. If you get a 4K TV, you're going to get even better quality because you're watching it in 4K. 4K technology, obviously. But you don't have to get a 4K TV if you don't want to. You don't have to. But if you want to get a better quality, I recommend you get a 4K TV too, obviously. So you need a 4K Blu-ray player, and I recommend everyone around the world you get a theater system, obviously. For the average person, you can afford to get a nice $1,500, $2,000, $2,500 theater system, obviously. Whereas for the rich, you can put 10, 15 grand, 20 grand into a high-end theater system. And if you're very, very rich, like me and my wife, you can even get your own private, build your own private IMAX theater, which will cost a good $500 $1 million to like $1.5 million, $2 million. But you have to be really rich to build that, obviously. You have to be rich. Obviously, right? So stay tuned for that video tomorrow. I'm going to talk about Amazon. The process, how do not let the sharks dupe you. Nobody's worth me my royalties. Amazon gets a flat 40%. As part of the deal, I'm gonna make sure they say flat 40%. That way, keep it very, very specific and detailed. That way, they don't breach. Because for contracts are very complicated. Contracts, even little words, you can bend some of the rules, obviously. That's why I'm gonna say Amazon gets a flat 40% of all the profits. I'm not gonna have a deal with net or gross. No, never do that. Say flat 40% of all the profits. SkySource gets a flat 60% of all the profits. That's the deal. That's this contract that me and my wife are gonna sign. Me and my wife and Amazon are gonna sign. Because not only are the actors signing their contracts, me and my wife are signing our own contracts we're signing our own contracts too. Because we're the lead for all our movies, and we're signing our own contracts too, obviously. But our contracts are the big deal. It's a huge deal, obviously. Whereas even though these actors are signing big ass deals, they're nothing compared to the amount of money me and my wife are gonna make, obviously. And I'm also gonna talk about the Hollywood actors. How I don't care how big you are. You may be a big guy in Hollywood and be the main show. You're not getting a piece of me and my wife's royalties. as there's no such thing as back-end deals for my company, obviously. I want to be very strict as no Hollywood actor is worth me my royalties. I don't care who you are. You may be Will Smith, Keanu Reeves, Scarlett Johansson, Samuel Jackson, Ben Affleck. You know what I'm saying? You may be big, but you're not getting a piece of my royalties. I'm going to be very sure on that. Nobody's worth me. You're not the one paying the bills, and you're not the one funding the movie project. I'm the one paying. Me and my wife are the one paying the bills. And we're the one funding the movie project. And you're not getting what? You're not getting a piece of the fucking royalties. I swore, yeah. Let me be very sure on that. You're looking at a very interesting video for that. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. I'll do my best to get the laptop. There's a good chance I will not have the laptop. I would love to have the laptop to show you pictures, but there's a good chance I won't have the laptop. I'll just write some notes on my notebook, and I'll make, sometime tomorrow around 5 or 6 o'clock, I'll make that very interesting video. You're looking at an amazing video for that, man. And then the following day, I'll continue my Chapter 8 read-along of Lord of the Rings. So Lord of the Rings fans are going to bear with me, obviously. I'm going to keep saying this. Remember Tony Stark? Remember his house in the Iron Man movie? Remember that top high-end house? Me and my wife are going to own a top high-end condo like that, man. Something high-tech like that, man. With an automatic door. I'm also going to have I want to have an automatic door in my house. Automatic door, luxury pool, jacuzzi, high-end, top high-end terrace outside. High-end, top high-end living room with a big screen TV. My high-end private IMAX city room where we're going to watch our movies. Top-notch bedroom upstairs. Top-notch bathrooms. Top-notch gym. I want my gym to be small and simple. I don't want to have a top high-end gym. Just a small little gym is good enough. But you're looking at something top-notch. High-end shower. Top high-end shower. You're looking at something top-notch, man. High-end elevator. High-end garage. You're looking at something crazy, man. I told you, I'll end it off with this. Remember that picture remember that picture in like 2000 early 2017? VJ made this Instagram video with that Madison chick. That I believe that Madison chick is her. I believe it's her what? It's her clothes. She's her clothing designer or something like that. She works for her, right? That Madison chick that VJ was with. I forget her last name, whatever it is. VJ did a video. She was on top. She did some shoot on top of her roof. She wore her green pants and her black shirt, right? She was on top of the roof and she made that video. I guarantee VJ made that video because she knows in the future she's gonna own that rooftop. She was on top of a roof in that video. VJ made that video because she knows in the future she's gonna own that rooftop condo, that rare rooftop condo with her husband, man. You're looking at something unheard of. Rooftop condo is something unheard of, man. A condo, so it's a top high-end condo, but it's on top of a roof, overlooking all of Vancouver. Same time, I have a top high-end garage that opens. You have these top high-end. You have a top high-end garage. You have this top high-end escalator, obviously, and you have the elevator. And the elevator takes you up to the car. You're looking at something high tech. And all those actors chosen for all my movies, they're all going to get to experience my $100 million rooftop condo, which is unheard of, obviously. So guys like Keanu Reeves, Samuel Jackson, Scarlett Johansson, Will Smith, Mark Wahlberg, if they're chosen, they're all going to get to party up my $100 million rooftop condo. So it looks something unheard of, obviously. Hence why if they're chosen, they're lucky. They're going to be saved. And they're going to get to experience the unheard of fame with international fame with Ivan and VJ, obviously. Again, you guys see the future. You already know who's chosen for my movie, obviously. Well, stay tuned for my video tomorrow, my interesting video, which is Swimming with the Sharks. You're looking at a very interesting video for that. This is Ivan the Mayor. I am signing out. I'm going to get a pack of smokes. Peace.